Emily gently cradled the newborn in her arms, his tiny fingers wrapped around her index finger. 3 days had passed since baby Daniel's medical complications had subsided, yet his parents hadn't returned to claim him. "They'll come back," she whispered, hoping she was right. After a week of unreturned calls and missing persons reports, the hospital administrator delivered the news. Daniel had been abandoned. Emily felt a surge of protectiveness wash over her. "I'll adopt him," she said without hesitation. The administrator looked skeptical, but agreed to help file the paperwork. When Child Protective Services arrived, Emily fought back tears as they took Daniel away. The social worker's expression remained stoic as she said, "Your application is being processed. We want to ensure Daniel will be placed in the best possible home." For days, Emily paced her apartment, jumping whenever her phone rang. When the call finally came, "Congratulations, you've been approved to adopt Daniel," Emily collapsed into tears of joy. She spent the following week transforming her spare bedroom into a nursery, painting the walls a soothing sage green, and decorating with jungle-themed decals. Every item, from the oak crib to the plush elephant toy, was chosen with love. As a former adoptee herself, Emily knew the importance of creating a space where Daniel would feel completely at home. The day she brought Daniel home remained etched in her memory. She showed him around the apartment, whispering promises in his ear. "I love you, Daniel. You'll always be safe with me." 10 years later, Emily was chopping vegetables for dinner when Daniel slammed the front door. His backpack hit the floor with a thud. "Bad day?" she asked, setting down her knife. Daniel slumped into a chair. "They were teasing me again, about being adopted." Emily's heart ached. She sat beside him and took his hand. "When I was your age, I got teased too, about the same thing." "Really?" Daniel's eyes widened. "Really, but remember, being adopted means you were chosen." She squeezed his hand. "That's something special." Daniel was quiet for a moment. "Mom, do you know my real parents' names?" Emily hesitated. She had always planned to be honest with Daniel about his adoption, but she had so little information to share. "I don't know their names, sweetheart. They left you at the hospital without any contact information." "Why didn't they want me?" Daniel's voice cracked. Emily pulled him into a tight embrace. "I don't know why they left, but it wasn't because of you. Never because of you." That night, after tucking Daniel in, Emily returned to the living room and opened her laptop. She had occasionally searched for information about Daniel's biological parents over the years, but had never found anything substantial. Tonight, she felt compelled to try again. Hours of searching yielded one new piece of information. A name, Margaret Collins, listed as an emergency contact in Daniel's original hospital records. Emily jotted down the address she found and made plans to visit while Daniel was at school. 2 days later, Emily stood nervously on Margaret Collins' doorstep. The elderly woman who answered looked confused but invited Emily in when she mentioned searching for Daniel's parents. "I'm looking for Richard and Anna," Emily explained as they sat at Margaret's kitchen table. Margaret sighed. "I haven't seen my son and his wife in years. They disappeared suddenly and only sent occasional letters for a while. Eventually, even those stopped." "I'm sorry to hear that," Emily said softly. "I adopted their son, Daniel. He was abandoned at the hospital where I worked as a neonatal nurse." Margaret's face paled. "Daniel? My grandson?" Emily nodded, pulling out her phone to show a recent photo of Daniel. "He's 10 now, smart, kind, curious about everything." Tears welled in Margaret's eyes. "He's beautiful. I had no idea." She studied the photo more closely, then frowned. "It's strange, though. He doesn't seem to have any of our family features." Emily felt a chill. "What do you mean?" Their conversation was interrupted by the doorbell. Emily hadn't been expecting anyone. "They found me through Daniel's adoption records," explained the man standing at the doorway with a woman and a young boy. "I'm Adam. This is my wife Lisa and our son Tyler." Emily invited them in, her mind racing. Margaret joined them in the living room, her eyes widening as she saw Tyler. "Oh my goodness," Margaret whispered. "He looks exactly like Richard." An uncomfortable silence fell over the room until Adam spoke. "There was a mix-up at the hospital. Tyler and Daniel were switched at birth." Emily felt the room spin. "What?" Lisa reached for her husband's hand. "Tyler has a rare blood disorder. When we did genetic testing, we discovered he couldn't possibly be our biological child. We've been searching for his biological family for months. We found your adoption records and traced you here, Adam continued. We need to find Tyler's biological relatives because he needs a bone marrow transplant. Margaret stepped forward. I'm Daniel's grandmother, or rather, Tyler's grandmother, it seems. I'll get tested immediately. Emily called Daniel's school and asked them to send him home early. While they waited, Margaret couldn't take her eyes off Tyler. You have your father's eyes, she told him, voice shaking. When Daniel arrived, Emily explained the situation as gently as she could. Daniel and Tyler studied each other with cautious curiosity. So, you're my biological parents? Daniel asked Adam and Lisa, his voice small. It seems that way, Adam replied softly. We'd like to get to know you, if that's okay. Daniel nodded slowly, then looked at Emily. But you're still my mom, right? Emily fought back tears. Always, Daniel. Always. Over the following weeks, blood tests confirmed what they already knew. Daniel was Adam and Lisa's biological son, while Tyler belonged to Richard and Anna, and by extension, to Margaret. The doctors were optimistic that Margaret's bone marrow would be compatible with Tyler's. Daniel and Tyler began spending time together, discovering shared interests despite their different upbringings. They were both avid readers, skilled at chess, and terrible at soccer. It's weird, Daniel told Emily one evening. Tyler feels like a brother, but also like a stranger. Families are complicated, Emily replied. Sometimes they're formed by blood, and sometimes by love. You're lucky, you have both now. The two families agreed on a co-parenting arrangement. Daniel would continue living with Emily, but spend weekends with Adam and Lisa. Tyler would stay with his parents, but visit Margaret regularly. On the day of Tyler's bone marrow transplant, both families gathered at the hospital. Emily watched as Margaret held Tyler's hand, singing him the same lullaby she had once sung to Richard. Adam and Lisa sat with Daniel, teaching him a card game they had played since childhood. Emily felt a strange mix of emotions: gratitude for the expanded family Daniel now had, sadness at having to share him, and a deep contentment seeing him surrounded by people who loved him. As Tyler was wheeled into surgery, Daniel hugged Margaret tightly. Take care of him, okay? Margaret nodded, tears streaming down her face. Family looks after family, Daniel. Blood or not. Emily smiled, understanding that what made a family wasn't just blood or legal documents. It was love, commitment, and the choice to belong to each other, no matter what.